What's up, guys? Welcome back to Sunday Sports Club Podcast, a podcast all about sports told by a woman, and that woman is me. Hi, guys. I'm Allison Kuch, your host of Sunday Sports Club Podcast, and a sport that we have yet to discuss on this podcast ever is horse racing. So today I am sitting down with guest Lindsay Czarniak, and we are going to be talking all about the Kentucky Derby, imposter syndrome, her career as a sportscaster, and how her and her husband balance their careers, parenting two kids in the midst of their two careers. If you guys are new to Lindsay and her story, she is a Emmy Award-winning broadcaster, sportscaster for Fox and ESPN, wife, mother, and she is also launching her own podcast later this spring, Things No One Tells You. So let's go ahead and welcome Lindsay. What's up, guys? Welcome back to Sunday Sports Club Podcast, a podcast all about sports told by a woman, and that woman is me. Hi, guys. I'm Allison Kuch, and today we have on a very special guest, Lindsay, and I don't want to butcher your last name.
We both have CZs. Czarniak.
Yes.
So the C is silent. That's all you need to know, right?
That's all I need. I know. Growing up with the last name Kucharzik, which a lot of people actually don't know my last name is Kucharzik, and I'm like, there's a point to that because nobody can pronounce it.
It's so funny because my mom has this story where she says, like, from the time that I was 3, I could spell it because I would hear her on the phone being like, Czarniak, C-Z-A-R-N-I, or like C as in cat, Z as in zebra. So I know I laughed. I love it. I love your name. Mm-hmm. I think it's great. But yes. And we totally get each other because it is a real thing.
Kucharzik just doesn't really roll off the tongue. So I went ahead and shortened it myself, but people are always so shocked that my full last name is Kucharzik.
Yeah, but I love it. I mean, it's great. It's funny. Mine actually, Czarniak means black in Polish, which is always just, I don't know. I was like, okay, well, that's great to know. So,
you're like fun facts.
We could just use that as a name at a restaurant, if you're like trying to make it easy. But yeah, fun fact, random fact. But yeah.
So then do you and your husband have different last names?
So officially, no, I took the name Melvin. Professionally, I use Czarniak, because that's like, that's professionally what for so long I was known by. And so people, they like don't necessarily know what to call me, and it depends where people know me from. But
totally.
But I also like only call him Melvin because, and I don't know how you are with Isaac, but I can't. It's superstitious now because when we met, I started calling him Melvin, and I think that's because I was working in the sports department at the station where we met, and it was just a thing. Like everyone called everyone by the last name, and so it has become such a thing that if I say, like I have said before, Craig, and my daughter's like, ooh, she called you Craig. Like they know too. So it's so random, but it's become, and I like, honestly, that's how I describe it. To me, it is a superstition. And he will be like, dude, like why are you calling me that? Like, I don't know if you guys have stuff like that, but it's like so funny.
Well, my husband always laughs when people call us the Rochelles because both legally and professionally, I am not a Rochelle. Nothing against it. I'm like, my daughter has that last name, but something about holding on to my last name. I feel like the getting rid of your last name thing is like old school. Like you don't have to do it. And I don't really have anything against changing my name, but I'm like, it feels like a lot of work. And I feel like people know me as like my current name. So I'm holding on to it.
I think it's awesome. I 100% agree. And so, yep, it is one of those things. It is old school. And I am proud to be a Melvin, but I also am very much a Czarniak. So I know it's like, it's such, and it's funny because it's like, I'm thinking, like, I'm assuming that that's probably just more popular as time passes, that people will hold on to their names and women will. And it's, I just think it's one of those things that when you look at it, you're like, oh yeah, that was such an old school type of thing. And why? And I don't know, like I'm all for evolving. I think it's so fascinating how like so many things in life evolve and change. And like, I think about that a lot because I think the sports industry as I knew it as a broadcaster is so evolving, which is really cool, but also like really scary for a lot of people. But it's, it's just, that's one of those things too. It's like
the world is quickly changing. I feel like even in the past 10 years, it has changed so much, and I'm sure you can speak to it just in the space that you are in. So I'm really excited to talk with you today, especially ahead of the Kentucky Derby. I will be attending the Kentucky Derby for the first time this
Yes.
year, and
Oh
I'm
my
so
God.
excited. Everybody is like, forget about the dress. You need an intense hat. They're like,
And
if you think it's extra, 5 more steps up.
you need two if you're going to be there on Friday, because that's the Oaks, and the Oaks is all fillies, so it's all girls running, and the whole it's pink. You have to wear pink to that day. So, and I brought
Oh
a hat to
god.
show you. But
Thank God we're talking because I don't like getting dress coded. I don't like
no, I
that.
know, I know,
I
I
just
know.
went
But
to the
don't worry.
Masters and I was like, is this long enough? Is this
I
okay? Is this appropriate?
I loved what you did at the Masters, and I was like, this is so genius, because I would be in that same exact boat as a million people would be. But like, so real quick, to back it up to your question, what's interesting to me is sort of what we were talking about, that I think the way sports coverage has evolved is part of the reason that I feel like I've been lucky enough to be involved now in horse racing. And I'll tell you that story in a minute. But so growing up, my dad was a sports journalist, and his beat, when we moved for him to work at USA Today, we moved to the DC area, and he was covering NFL and horse racing and some skiing too. But so I grew up like having horse racing stories in the backdrop. My dad would go to all these Triple Crown events and just these great events, and he would have all these like horse racing cups and like when you're a kid, and I would see these things hanging around, and you just kind of like register that in the back of your mind. But anyway, I loved the stories, and I loved hearing what he would come home talking about. And he had these really great like journalistic moments that he still thinks about, of, being at the barns in the early morning and waiting for a horse trainer to come out and talk to him and all these things. And then, so fast forward to myself going into study communications in college and not knowing exactly what I wanted to do. And I was like, oh, something really lit me up about this practicum class that I had where we got to do on air. We had to like basically make a show. And when it was my turn to host, I was like, oh my God, like you could do this for a living. This does not feel like work. This is exactly what I want to do. But I wanted to be on MTV. So like my dream
Didn't we all?
Oh my God. I was just like, that is all. I want to talk about music. I want to like toss to music videos. I'm like, which I'm totally dating myself. But so long story short, I started on this quest to either become the next like MTV VJ or to do news. I thought I wanted to do news or entertainment, and I went on that path and was bouncing from job to job. Finally got a job after working at CNN entry level as like a reporter, but I was news. And then I had this random happenstance occur where I met some people on a weekend trip with one of my best friends. We were down in Daytona hanging out. We met a group of guys that were there that were covering racing, auto racing. So long story short, we're just like hanging out. They know that I'm a reporter in Jacksonville, Florida. And also, I'm making it sound like really weird. It wasn't. It was literally like we were just hanging out as friends. But it was anyway. I haven't had enough coffee today. Long drive.
Like parents.
Right. So they reach out because they needed a reporter to do something for them at the Speedway. And I was like, yes, my station let me go do it. So one thing leads to another, and I find myself getting a side gig covering NASCAR and motorsports. And it was my first foray into that world. And I was like, this is really exciting, but are you sure you want me? Because like, I don't know that world at all. But it was amazing because they really like took me under their wing, taught me what I needed to know. And it was like a playground because it allowed me to come at it from like this sort of news space of not really knowing the world of motorsports. And it was just so fascinating. So then I went from there, and I was like at a race, and we were waiting to interview the winning driver. And we strike up a conversation with this TV crew from Miami, and we're just waiting and talking, and they were like, we have an opening to be like our third sportscaster in our department, and you would be primarily covering the Miami Dolphins. And I was like, I'm news. I love racing. I love sports, but I've not covered that. And story short, I got that job, and I went down to Miami. So I left news to go take this job in sports. And my first job in sports officially was covering the Miami Dolphins. And it was awesome because we did this show called Fins TV, which was the behind the scenes on the team, because our station, the NBC affiliate, was their partner. And what was so awesome was like the stories we were doing, like the players wanted, it was stuff that was like compelling for them. And we were covering the day to day, but it was also just like, we were making gingerbread houses with like them and their wives.
It wasn't like stats.
It wasn't. And like the stats are awesome. And especially when the stakes are high and it's like but I really just love like the storytelling and the relatability of sports, I think is just so awesome and so powerful. Right. And so like, that was really cool because I also remember being like, whoa, like learning about how everything worked, like the equipment manager and everything, like the food. I was just so blown away by that whole behind the scenes situation. But anyway, so
well, I have to interrupt you because
please.
Every sports broadcaster I've spoke to, it's always like you have the skill set, but it's a little bit of luck to get into the job that you get into.
Yes.
So it's so interesting always hearing the behind the scenes of like the ladder and how you climb up to the point now where you're at today.
I feel like, and I haven't really thought about this until you just said that, in sports, and maybe I'm saying this out loud because my husband's in news and his path is like, it feels like in news it's a lot more straight in terms of where you're trying to go. And I think in sports, you're right. It's like for whatever reason, it's different. Maybe it's because there are so many sports. Maybe it's because there are different avenues. Like you can be covering the live events or you can be on a studio show like ESPN. But yeah, it kind of is like you're starting off and then you're like a duck with your feet under the water. Like, I don't know where to go. And then finally you get this break somewhere, right? But like mine was like, I remember having the conversations with my people around me who were like a slew of like my parents and close friends and whomever mentors and being like, is this crazy to go to Miami? Because it technically was also still like a part-time gig. They were like, we believe this is going to turn into full-time, but like there were many kind of question marks. But I also have identified through therapy and other things that like every move I've ever made, there has been an exorbitant amount of risk. And so apparently, and like uncertainty, I think that that's something that maybe, I don't know, maybe people that set out to do sports type things, like that's kind of part of the deal. It's like you sort of thrive in that a little bit.
Right.
So I don't know. But anyway, I went from there to just hopping to different reporting jobs in sports then, which was awesome. And went back to DC for a job, which was great. And then ended up from there going to ESPN. This is a really long story. And then,
I mean, there's a lot of steps to get to that. I mean, you've been in this, I mean, position of broadcasting for how long?
40 years. No, I'm kidding. Like, no, it's but seriously. So like, for being on air, like 20. Oh my God. Which is crazy. And it's been all these different random types of jobs, sort of to your point. So like I was at ESPN until 2017. And then when I left there, started doing sidelines with Fox. So it was like, then it sort of became a different type of gig where you're freelance, but I was more event-based coverage, which was really awesome also. So now I'm freelance. And one of the random things that has popped up for me, which is sort of my point 10 minutes ago, is that I had a friend in horse racing whose wife actually was my husband's producer when he was at MSNBC. And my friend Dan runs this group that's a digital outlet owned by the Jockey Club called America's Best Racing. And he cold reached out to me and was like, hey, wondering if you might have time and would be interested. There is a horse that is basically considered the second coming of Secretariat. Meaning, not sure how familiar you are with that story, but Secretariat was just this Cinderella story of a horse, this incredible horse that, not Cinderella because the expectations were crazy massive and the horse just blew everyone out of the water. So there was a horse flight line a couple of years ago that was doing that same thing. People hadn't seen that type of performance since Secretariat, and they wanted me to do a story for them on that horse around the Breeders' Cup. And I was like, this is amazing. Like I've always wanted to do this. You know, when I was at ESPN or even at NBC in Washington, I got to touch horse racing a little bit, but it wasn't like this. So this has been a really cool, like awesome experience because it also kind of takes me back to like my dad's stuff. So we have really cool conversations about that. But I'm realizing that me being around the barns in the morning is very similar to me being at a racetrack in the morning. And I love that. Like that
Mm-hmm.
to me is so cool when you're like, you smell the exhaust, but you're like hearing it and everything's waking up and it's like awesome. It's like a football field in the morning too. I just love that time when it's like, there's all this hope.
Yeah.
I don't know.
There's hope in the air. It's funny. I know about horses and horse racing because I grew up a horse girl.
Oh, I love
I had a
that.
horse pillow, I had a horse comforter, and I think at some age my parents were like, "We live in Michigan, like what is up with you and these like the horses? Like we should like push
Yeah.
her into like a more normal sport." But there's something about it that like I absolutely love, and I always tell my husband it's a dream of mine to own
Oh
horses
my
in Orange County, California, which is a dream because of how dang expensive it is here. I'm like, I don't think anybody owns horses out here.
Oh
Um,
my God. That'd be amazing though.
no,
And
but
you're
it's
not far from the Breeders' Cup, which is Del Mar.
yeah, no, so it's so interesting hearing the way that you're talking about like the like excitement of getting into like that aspect of like broadcasting and would you call that broadcasting still? Or is it more like event?
I know. I mean, yes, I guess it's like but well, yeah, I guess it's like it's a mixture. So kind of what's crazy to me about the whole thing is like it's reporting for sure, but then also along with that stuff I was doing with America's Best Racing, they have something called a Stake in Stardom campaign, which then they came to me the next year. They were like, hey, we have this campaign where
Mhm.
we have a handful of people that we basically have. You're kind of like an ambassador, you're an influencer for the sport. And they gave me a percentage of a racehorse. And it was the coolest thing to be on that
Oh,
ride, right?
whoa.
So it's like you're on that ride, and then the horse that we had a stake in, which was owned by the ownership group West Point Thoroughbreds, which has a Derby horse this year, which is
Mhm.
awesome. Um, it was named Jace's Road, and Jace's Road qualified for the Derby. And that was like, we didn't know it was going to happen. It happened. And now we were like, whoa, I was just excited to go because I had never been at that point. And
Mhm.
then it's like you're going as an owner of a Derby horse. And so that whole experience was like bananas because, it's like one thing to get ready to go and have just an amazing time, which it always is because it's like
Mhm.
the party, but you're watching the racing and you can, if you want to, go see the horses at the barn, but then like to be there with that horse, we were like at the barn meeting the horse and they do this thing called the walkover. And
Mhm.
right before the big race, which is the Derby race at close to 6 o'clock or whenever it is that afternoon, everyone, all the horses and their connections, the people around them like walk over and it's wild because it's like all the stands are staring at, this big parade of everything. And you realize like, what I love about sports, and I would wonder if like this is similar for you too. It's like it can be, I just love the moment of it and how big a deal these moments are. And I don't know. So that experience was just incredible. Our horse, the other thing I remember, Ellie, I'm like, this has got to be the fastest. I literally, the starting gate lifts, the horses start running, and then it's like 90 seconds later, it's done. And our horse like fell to the back of the field. And I'm like sitting there, and the crowd is like going crazy. Everyone's like drunk. And then everyone's leaving. And like, so I'm like, wait, what's happening? Like, it was so crazy because it's like, it's so fast and then it's
Yeah.
done.
Absolutely. Well, I kind of compare the Kentucky Derby to like the Masters in the way that it is such an intense community full of like traditions and this whole
Yes.
culture and all of that, but you don't know until you're actually in it that you realize, oh wow, this is a huge community of people who are like looking forward to this event for the entire year. And
Yes.
it's such a different world. Like even going to the Masters, I'm so intrigued by like going to the Kentucky Derby of just like everybody talks about it, everybody like knows about it, but to experience it has to be its own like experience for yourself. Do you know how long people spend figuring out what to watch in a year? The answer is 64 hours. I mean, my husband says that I can't make up my mind. And when it comes to watching shows, usually I can't, but insert Streamline. We all spend more time searching than we do watching, and Streamline cuts that in half, if not more. So think of Streamline as something to organize and prioritize all of your favorite shows and sports all in one place. Streamline is great for sports fans, making it easy to find where and when your favorite teams are playing. The schedule feature eliminates the frustration of searching across multiple sports channels and apps. And think of all the sports all in one place. That's why I love Streamline. With Streamline, you and your friends can connect, track, and chat about what you're watching, what you loved, hated, and also what you can't wait to see. And you can even set a create playlist like best sports shows or my favorite comedies. I'm currently trying to compile all of my favorite shows I've ever watched and put them all into a little streamlined playlist. That way I can recommend them to anybody who might be postpartum or like recovering from something or even sick, or, maybe they just want a good old time just watching a bunch of shows. So I'm currently trying to compile that right now. If you guys are interested in seeing that, head over to Streamline. You can download Streamline now and spend less time searching and more time watching what everyone's watching all in one place. Streamline is a free app to download and use. So head over to streamline.watch/Sunday to download Streamline today and follow me, Sunday Sports Club, available in the Apple App Store. Google Android app is coming soon. You guys know by following me on social media, I'm constantly on the go. I'm on a plane. I'm going to bed late. I'm getting up early. There are so many things happening all at one time, and something that I always make sure I have in my purse is LMNT. I discovered LMNT last year, actually. I got a gift from a brand, and they had a little LMNT packet in there. It was like raspberry salt, and ever since I tasted it, I am hooked. So if you guys have never heard of LMNT before, LMNT is a zero sugar electrolyte drink mix and sparkling electrolyte water born from the growing body of research revealing that optimal health outcomes occur at sodium levels 2 to 3 times government recommendation. So each stick pack delivers a meaningful dose of electrolytes free of sugar, artificial flavors, or other dodgy ingredients. And it's formulated for anyone on a mission to restore health through hydration. It is perfectly suited for athletes, folks who are fasting, those who are following keto, low carb, whole food, paleo diets. Like, also just for me, I make sure I have an LMNT every single day. And whenever I'm traveling, I drink it in a huge glass of water. And you can kind of change up how strong it tastes. I always like mine super strong, so I'm putting it in a little bit of water so it's like extra salty. That's my favorite. LMNT helps anyone stay hydrated without the sugar and dodgy ingredients found in popular electrolyte and sports drinks. Electrolyte deficiency and imbalance can cause headaches, cramps, fatigues, brain fog, and weakness. And I, again, make sure I'm always having LMNT on me. And yes, I can talk all about how they don't have dodgy ingredients, but their community also serves as proof. They're used by US Olympic athletes, they're hydration partner to Team USA weightlifting and so many Olympic athletes individually. Professional athletes use them, special forces, health experts, business leaders, and again, everyday health like moms, exercise enthusiasts, heavy sweaters, sauna sitters. We love them in this family. And right now, LMNT is offering a free sample pack with any purchase. That's 8 single serving packets free with any LMNT order. So it's a great way to try out all the flavors. One of my favorites, raspberry salt, okay? So you can get yours at drinkelement.com/Sunday. This deal is only available through my link. You must go to drinklmnt.com/Sunday. And now a word from our friends at Drybar. I love trying out new products when it comes to skincare or hair care, and I recently tried out the all-new Drybar Blowout Defense Collection. It's game-changing hair products that prep for a gorgeous blowout that lasts up to 96 hours. So the other day was Easter, and I was getting ready in the morning. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna use my Blowout Defense Collection and blow out my hair, and we'll see how long it lasts. And you guys, here I am 4 days later, and my hair still looks good. It's bouncy, it's clean, and I have the Drybar Blowout Defense Collection to thank. So This Blowout Defense collection contains the Strengthen and Extend Blowout Accelerator Spray. This is so good. It cuts blow dry time by 32% while locking in styles, which is a total game changer when you're in a rush. And not only does it speed things up, but it also detangles and protects your hair from heat, so you're styling smarter and not harder. I love this product so much. I'm constantly going to be using it. Anytime I'm blowing my hair out, I'm going to be spraying this on my hair because as a mom, I just don't have a lot of time on my hands. So anything that is going to help my blow dry time, I'm going to be using. Another part of the collection is the Strengthen and Extend shampoo, and it's one of those products that actually works. So it hydrates, detangles, and strengthens your hair with every wash, and also repairs damage with the Hydrobond peptide. Blowouts will last way longer, up to 96 hours, and also my hair feels healthier. And last but not least, the Strengthen and Extend conditioner hydrates, detangles like a dream, and leaves your hair so soft, minimizing breakage. And also, not to mention, all of these products smell so dang good. I don't know about you guys, but I'm always looking for products that give me that salon quality result without the trip because we're all in a rush these days. And this is perfect for moments you want your hair smooth and manageable. So use the Blowout Defense shampoo, conditioner, and Blowout Accelerator spray with your favorite Drybar tool, and you have a blowout that lasts up to 96 hours. It's not get ready with me, it's stay ready with me. Get a gorgeous blowout that lasts now and shop Drybar's Blowout Defense products at drybar.com. So can you kind of give a quick down low on what is the Kentucky Derby? What are the events that everybody knows about? What does that weekend look like?
It is the beginning of the Triple Crown. So it's the Kentucky Derby, the Preakness, and then the Belmont Stakes. And the Kentucky Derby is the jewel basically crown. It is amazing. It is the one that is probably the most obviously popular, but it is run the first Saturday in May always. It is at Churchill Downs, which Churchill Downs is just like iconic in itself. And when you step foot there, it's like a Green Bay or, Fenway. It's just, you can feel it. It's got this just lore and this amazing kind of history to it. But it is, the most popular of the races and the one that everyone looks to conquer. And I think it's because of just the lore, the mystique. It is, they'll have 20 horses that race, it's 3-year-old horses. It is, a full day on Saturday, the main marquee day, where there will be races all day, and then the Derby will be run right around 6 o'clock. And it's this incredible build to that moment. And what's so great is each race that is sort of a big race kind of has the thing. But Kentucky, it's you've got the mint juleps, and you go walk around the grounds. It's people just make a day out of that. And They make a day certainly out of the different clubs and experiences that are there at the racetrack. But it's just, there are so many different things, being there at the racetrack and when the races are being run leading up to the big one, just going down along the rail, being able to watch horses thundering past you. It's, to me, that's why NASCAR and even IndyCar and horse racing is very similar to me, because there are very few experiences where in sports you're watching them, but you feel it, you smell it, you hear it. When those horses come thundering past you, you feel it in your throat. It is so
you feel
crazy.
It in your heart. You're like, okay.
Yes. And
I don't want to get caught in front of one of those guys.
Right. No. And there is that element of okay, you've got to watch where you're walking. You've got to keep your head on a swivel, because you're also the accessibility in the paddock area where the horses are walked around before they go out to the race, where the jockeys will mount them. It's that's a whole tradition in itself, and it's all this pomp and circumstance, and it's really quite amazing. But
what's your favorite thing? What do you look forward to most about the Kentucky Derby?
I mean, probably Old Kentucky Home, which is they do this song and then they get ready to start. I mean, I love when they're parading the horses and doing that walkover. I even love it as a spectator because you're just watching it, and it's there's so much anticipation for what is about to happen. But there's this also element of mystique because the horses cannot communicate. That just adds this level of you can't put your finger on it, you know, but it's just but that they feel and there's so much behind it, which sounds so hokey, but I really believe it. But my favorite time there is just if you're able ever to be back in the barns and to be around the action of what's happening to get these horses ready, especially in the morning. One of my favorite moments is Thursday at the racetrack before the Derby, because it's a day where everybody's out, the horses are breezing and they're getting their practice in. Breezing, you know this, if you know horses, it's like when they're racing and they're basically sprinting. But I just like to see the track come alive. And I think, I would love for people to understand like the amount of people it takes to get these horses ready, and the trainer who is basically their coach and all that they're putting into it, and how their day begins at like 3 a.m. But, look, I did that thumbs up and sorry.
Well, it sounds like its own language.
Yeah.
So I have some horse racing terms.
Oh, dear God.
So I want you to explain them quickly and let me know what this means. And if you don't know, then we can just all figure it out later.
Okay. Okay, great. Okay.
Bloodline.
Bloodline would be like, what is your family tree?
Okay.
What is, your family tree. So example, these horses that are running in the Derby, sometimes it's like their parents are more famous, and that's why people are like, oh my God. So example, there's this, I've had the opportunity to tour this place, Lane's End Farm, where they take a lot of the horses that are retired and they breed them to make these amazing horses that will run, right? So Bloodline would be like, an example would be a horse that is born from Tappet. Like a lot of time, like Tappet has a bunch of children, and some of these horses now you'll say like, oh, this is, the horse that is going to run with that bloodline, because they know that Tappet is a legendary horse. And so bloodline really matters, especially in terms of like the expectations for a horse, how fast they'll be or how strong.
Okay, interesting. Call to post.
Call to post is that, like
that's fun. Okay.
And that is like basically when the horses are called to the post, like they will go to the starting gate. And so that is a magical moment when you're at the Derby, because it's like, oh, here it is, but so that's one of the things that you listen for that makes it very special.
Colors and silks.
Colors and silks are the uniform of an NFL team in horse language. Okay. So the silks are the defining wardrobe that a horse will wear. The color, because you'll see them on the racetrack, you'll see their imagery, and I'm sure I'm butchering this, but basically it is the jockey also wears the colors and silks that go with the team that they're working for. So West Point Thoroughbreds, who I've done a lot of work with, have a certain color. Theirs is like yellow and black, and you see them, and that identifies that, oh, that is the West Point Thoroughbred horse. When you'll see the horses in the paddock, they'll have like a red, background with a number on it, and that's a certain identifying color. So really, it's like, it's basically the identifying.
It's like the black for the Raiders. Got it. Black and skulls and like all the scary stuff. Yeah.
Yes.
Furlong.
Furlong is a distance of length that a horse runs during a race. So a furlong is equivalent to, I need to look this up, but it's basically a marked distance or if you look it up, and I hope that you're going to be wagering, because that makes it so much more fun. So when you wager, you look it up, and some of the stats in like the Daily Racing Forum will be all these different stats. My friend Alexa, I'm going to connect you with her, because she is a handicapping wizard, and she will have you making it rain all day.
I love that.
But some of the stuff that comes with it is like, like how many furlongs the racetrack is, and then you'll see like who's the trainer, when was the last race, and how did they perform in the last race, et cetera, et cetera.
Infield and Millionaire's Row.
Well, the infield is the part of the racetrack that is within the oval. So that would be where most oftentimes a lot of the action is happening. Sometimes, whether it's barns or whether it's like different party suites, but there's a lot of the work going on there. So at the Kentucky Derby, it's where you're seeing just like a lot of the stuff happen. And at the Preakness, it's where you're seeing complete debauchery, but also a lot of fun. So It's like, it's the NASCAR, same thing. It's like the
Okay.
infield is where, anyway, fans can get a lot of parties, a lot of fun, but also some serious business. And Millionaires Row is a location at the Derby where it's, I think it's an amazing, is it suites? Or is it like, I'm not actually sure, but I think it has something to do with the seats, and I should probably know that, but I'm
But it's
not.
okay that you don't.
Thank
And
you.
then the last you kind of touched on this, the Triple Crown.
Mm. The Triple Crown is the Kentucky Derby, the Preakness, and the Belmont Stakes. And it is those three. So if a horse pulls off winning the Triple Crown, that is a horse that goes down in history forever. It is nearly impossible to do because it would require the same horse to win all those races. The
Has
first
it
of
ever
those races.
happened?
Oh, yes, it has. And the last one, and I should know this, but I'll look this up for you right now. But why it's so hard is because all that goes into it, these races qualifying, it's like there is so much that people don't see behind the scenes. There are so many different people, like hot walkers, exercise riders. Exercise riders are people that are like working these horses out. Hot walkers are like walking them, getting them ready. There are grooms. There's a farrier who's
Wow.
basically the person that takes the horse to the nail salon.
What kind of people do you see at the Derby?
I mean, I think it really runs the gamut. I think it's like the type of people that go there are people that have been going for years. It's like people that have not missed a race and wait all year for this to happen. And also the Friday before the Derby is called the Oaks. It is, the theme is pink. There's a lot of, philanthropy around it and charity and breast cancer awareness, et cetera. But it's all fillies race on that day, which are female horses, which is amazing. And then Derby Day, it's groups of guys, groups of women. It is groups of just couples and friends and whoever, but people that really like make the trek from everywhere. Where it's like appointment watching. I
I
think it
know,
runs the.
and again, like this is something I've never even thought about with the Masters. You have to like win this lottery of getting a ticket. How do you get a ticket to the Kentucky Derby?
I mean, I love a good old auction. Like, I love just placing my. No, I mean, you can buy tickets. Tickets run the gamut of price, as you might
I'm sure.
imagine. I mean, there are things like Sports Illustrated has this crazy, amazing lounge that is a very big deal that I would be the place that I would be trying to probably get my access to. But, I think it's like there are a million different ways. People that are sponsors, people that I think that's a really big deal. Is like if someone works for a company and they have a box at the Derby or a seat at the Derby, like that's a place where a lot of people get their opportunity to go. But other people, it's just buying tickets and it's buying like general admission early, or it's, seeing how they can do it. But I mean, you asked, there are certainly a million celebrities that go from
I'm
artists,
sure.
of every genre, country artists, hip hop, everything,
Yeah.
athletes, as you know, and then the events also around it at night. There are so many parties. It's very much like the Super Bowl. It's like Barnstable Brown is one of the cream of the crop parties every year. There's Unbridled is a huge one. And I know now that there are rumors that Taylor Swift is going to be there. But last year there were rumors that Taylor was there and it almost shut down the red carpet at the Kentucky Derby. It was crazy.
Oh my gosh.
But it was
It's
awesome.
interesting because like the Super Bowl, when I go out to the Super Bowl, I go out on Tuesday before Super Bowl Sunday because of all the events and parties and this and that and pop-up shops, and it's like its own world. Like the city is like very clearly taken over by that event.
100%. And it's like, right, it's kind of like you have to put in equal amount of work to be at those places. And I mean, FanDuel has a party, which is one of my favorites now there at the Derby, because they always get really great acts. Like Shabuzi is their act this year. But they're also like SI has a really big presence. So it's cool. It's like really mainstream. I love like, this is one where it's like, doesn't matter if you're a guy or a girl, there's like something for you and they're catered to you. This one feels very, I don't know. It's cool. It's just like you can dress up as much as you want. There's certainly like a ton of emphasis.
I was going to
put
say,
on
is there a
dressing.
dress code?
Yes. The hats are a really big deal. Hats on Derby Day Yes, you need to do them. And my favorite Milner on the planet is Christine Moore. She is phenomenal, and I would be happy to connect you with her. She has done like
Please.
so many hats with me. Like she's got this showroom in New York City that looks like Alice in Wonderland. You walk in there and it's like, oh my God, because she was Broadway. She did costumes on Broadway, and now she does Derby. And she and her husband, Blake, worked on Broadway together, and now they do this business. And it's so great. But hats are a must. And I think like everything from dresses to suits that are really like fun and sexy, but
Yeah.
derby fancy. Oaks, you can kind of get away with a little bit different. I think pink is a must. That's what I would say. But I've done it where like my first year, this was my Breeders' Cup hat. Oops, I can't do this over that Christine made for me. And she had to like show me how to wear it because the tilt is also a big deal.
Yeah,
But
like,
yeah,
this is a whole
now
new
that's
world
mine.
to me. What is the mint julep?
Oh, so good. It's a bourbon drink. I think it's bourbon. Unless
Okay,
I'm
so it's a
wrong.
drink. I'm like,
It's
I
a
don't know
drink.
these. I don't know
Oh,
the lingo. Is
it's
it a
really good.
hat? Is it a drink?
No,
Is
no,
it
no,
a
no.
horse?
It's
Like
a
the
drink,
horses
and
even have the craziest names. I'm like, okay, that's a horse. Got it.
yes. Oh, but that's so cool too. The horses will typically have like a nod to their past and their bloodline and their name too.
Oh
Like,
my gosh.
yeah. So that's super cool too. What was I going to say? But so the mint julep is really great. And then when you go to the Preakness, it's the Black-Eyed Susan. So everything, they all have like their own drink. The Belmont Stakes 2 years ago was where it was one of the most incredible storylines that I've ever covered. It was the first female trainer to win a Triple Crown race. Jenna Antonucci won as the trainer with Arcangelo. And I was there as a fan, but like working, kind of covering it, but my family was there. And when she won, her reaction was so incredible. But when she was being interviewed by Fox at the end of that race, I was watching from the grandstands where I was walking with my daughter, and we were watching the subtitles. And she was asked a question, and she said, "If you don't have a seat at the table, you make your own table." And I was like, "Whoa, what is
Love
that?"
that.
So yeah, so I reached out to her to just try to get to know her story and understand her. And we've done a few things since, and she's become a friend. And her story is truly incredible because what her journey was like to get to that point, really is like in a man's world, but also then the journey that continues once you win that race and you win a Triple Crown. And it's like, still now it's created such great opportunity, but it's also like she's got to keep it going. It's so cool. And I love thinking about it too, because like the women that are in horse racing are really badass from every different level, but especially if you're like a trainer and you're because you love horses, it's like really cool to see them doing what they're doing too, just because of all that goes into it. So
I think that is my new favorite quote. I think that even when my husband was first playing in the NFL, I never saw like a space. Like everyone's like, "Oh, you're a fan of an NFL team. Like name 5 players on that team that you love." Like I totally agree. Like if there's not a seat at the table for you, like make your own table.
yeah,
Like set up your own space and just go with what you love. So like what do you love about what the position that you're currently in? Like freelancing and getting to cover like different things. It seems like a very intertwined world. The sports
it is.
broadcasting, reporters, it feels all very intertwined.
It really is. And because you've done work in that space, obviously, also, right? So, like, you can feel that. It's like, it is really true. And it's like, and now that like stuff is sort of not moving away, like, I think event coverage is the one thing that will always be the mainstay, and there will always be a need. And people will always go to it because you're getting the live thing happening right there, and the storytelling around it is really relevant. But the
Right.
way that stuff is morphing, it's like, to me, my professional opinion is like access is so important. And now that we have these phones and anyone can do their own thing, including the people involved and the athletes and the main characters themselves, it's changed the game a bit. But so what I love about this is like doing the Indy 500. It's sort of like I go there for a couple days around the race, cover that, and then the Monday after the race, I host this banquet, which was on Peacock, now will be on FS1, where you're interviewing every driver. And it's like crazy challenging because the only person that wants to be there is the person that won the race. But like the rest of the drivers in the field are interviewed. And so it's fun. It's really challenging as like a host or broadcaster because you've got to come up with questions that are going to be entertaining. But so I think like there's something really cool about being able at this point of my career to use the different types of skills. And sometimes it's like stuff that it feels like is more back in the beginning for me, like being at the racetrack in the morning covering horse racing. I love just like trying to find an angle and going to find someone that I need to talk to. Example, after the Derby last year, Mystic Dan was the horse that won that race. And we had an opportunity to go and just kind of tour around the barns first thing in the morning after the Derby. And we were down there with this group and we come to the shed row where the Kenny McPeak's horses were and Mystic Dan was one of his horses. And we're there and we happened to stumble upon that horse when the jockey Brian Hernandez was in there. And we walk up on this scene playing out and he's like taking pictures for fans, holding up a newspaper and stuff. And I was like, oh my God, like this is the kind of thing that, you know, like old school journalism, like that's where it is. It's like, for me, it's like finding the nugget or, oh my gosh, you have access to this person and let me ask you. So he was cool enough to just do a quick, I was like, we could do an Instagram live or I could just record the video or in the interview. So I asked him to do a quick interview and I didn't even know what I was going to ask him because I didn't know he was going to be there. But I was just like, I think that now you can, that type of stuff is like, you can get really authentic type of responses, which is cool and a little bit different. And one of the things he said to me was like, I still think about all the time. And I was like, you know, what is something that no one would know? Because also, as you know, it's like now I'm thinking, okay, who is the audience? When I was at SportsCenter, I knew what the analytics were. Now that it's not SportsCenter, but it's like more Instagram or wherever, like I can track what the analytics are. It's like, I'm like, this is very interesting to me because it's like equal women, equal men. So I'm like, what do people want to know who aren't dialed into this sport in the main stream? So I was just like, what do you think? Like, what is Mystic Dan like? I said something like that. Like, what do you want people to know about this horse that they wouldn't know? Like, what's his personality? And he goes into this whole like thing describing what Mystic Dan was like. And he was like, you know, he just understood the moment. And I was like, oh my God, like to me, that is just so freaking cool because you could ask that of any sport. Like, why did champions win the Super Bowl? Like, they freaking understand the moment. Like, why does the hockey player win the Stanley Cup? Because his team freaking, you know, or Simone Biles, anyone. Like, what does that mean? I was like, and for a horse, like someone who can't even, you know, like, what does that mean? I just found it so fascinating. And I think now I'm way off on a tangent, but to your point about like loving horses, it's so cool.
No, it is interesting. And you talking about the fact that you're trying to find an angle, you're trying to like tell a story that people care about, and you have to think about your audience and who is that. And it's really interesting because as somebody who has created content and like I love storytelling, and I feel like that's where I really feel like I connect with people is like the stories, the behind the scenes, like what do people actually give a shit about? Because anybody else could go and say, oh, like Mystic Dan, how did it feel to win? Like, and ask like the regular questions, but like, who is the horse? Like, what is the horse's nature? Like, and asking things that people are genuinely just maybe curious about, or they might hear that question and think, oh, I've never thought about that. Like, so it is so interesting. And you've covered insane events like the Olympics, NASCAR, NFL. Do you find one more to be challenging than the other? Or how do you even prepare for events like that if you're so spread out? You have to know so much.
Well, I think, and now I kind of look at that through a different lens. When I was at SportsCenter, I was like, I love the variety. That's like really cool. But I don't know, they have like the best team of researchers, and so does CBS. I mean, NBC, all of them, CBS. Like you have to, but it's like that's one thing that I do miss because like you have this amazing team, and I could be like, hey, I need to know either this stat or the last time so-and-so did blah, blah, blah. And like, you've got it at your fingertips. So I do think that like with the way that stuff's going, and it's like with these types of opportunities, I do in my mind think about it like, this is a playground. This is amazing. I think the scariest moments have been like, okay, if there's a sport that you didn't grow up following, like golf at ESPN, I would be like, okay, I need to, there are sports where if you're not talking the lingo, people know it right away. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, you're okay. And so, but I also think that can all be learned. And if you're serious about that craft and you're respectful of what the sport and the craft is,
Mm-hmm.
then it is doable. I think like I am constantly panicked when I'm like when you said before about freelance. I feel like panic is the word that has now come into my mind, and it's because it is great. Also, it can allow for an amazing balance of like lifestyle and whatever with kids and family, because it's hard if you're like, I frequently go back to that too. I'm like, is it better to be all the time at one gig where it's
Right.
like, or for me, I really get lit up by like the travel and the being immersed in it, and really what you and
Right.
I are talking about with just the relatability and those types of storytelling. So I think it's, I panic when I don't know, like, okay, what is the next thing that you're doing? Or sometimes it's like, I'm so excited by what those types of moments, like when I'm describing in the barns at the Derby or at the racetrack. And I'm sitting here like, oh my God, this guy who won the Indy 500 3 times is standing right here and I have access to him. So now I'm dealing with imposter syndrome within myself where it's like, you've forgotten that, wait a minute, you did host this national, like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm just like, well,
It's so interesting hearing that you have imposter syndrome.
oh God, it's like, it's crazy. One of my friends is an actress and she tells the best story because she talks about how she got this movie role and it was like Paul Rudd and all these
Mm-hmm.
other people, and that she showed up on set and like couldn't even do anything. I'm not comparing myself to that. I'm not an actress, but I'm just saying like it is. I think it's a real thing, and it's like it's whatever I think a
Yeah.
lot more people deal with it. I don't know.
No,
You don't seem like
it's
you ever deal with it. Like your stuff feels so
oh,
buttoned up, and I'm like, that is so amazing. Like, it really is.
oh my gosh. I feel like I have a meltdown to my husband every single day. Like, oh, like I don't know like what I'm doing. I don't know like how do I do this? How do I do? And he's like, what have you been doing for the past 4 years? Like, what are you talking about? And it is so interesting hearing that even you being in the space for 20 years, like you still feel that way.
Yeah, it's funny, and I don't know if it's because like stuff changes. I don't know if it's like because I'm more used to being on a set where you know what that looks like. You know who the different people are. Like you asked about Olympics, I think one of the coolest, but like probably hardest, and something that people would probably, I don't know if they would realize this, is that like it's a team of people that puts on a show. So last Olympics, I was hosting a show that was during the day, actually like early morning day part for USA Network. And so we were doing a swath of like 6 hours, and we were just in charge of all the events that people were watching on our air during that time. And it's like you have a crew that's cobbled together, but they're all from different places. So you
Mhm.
realize really fast, everyone is trying to do the same thing. Everyone's trying to do their jobs well. Everyone has been chosen because they're competent, they're good at what they do. But it's like the fastest way to find success is to leave the bullshit on the side, bring no baggage, and just like show up in the moment and be there with this team and cultivate chemistry as fast as possible. Because otherwise, I feel like it's one of those things where people are always kind of like, am I doing okay? Like,
Right.
is this what they want me to do? Should I, right? So it's fascinating to me because, and like, honestly, that relates to Brian Hernandez saying that about his horse. You've got to
Mhm.
understand the moment. And it's like, what's the moment? We're all coming together to do this massive global thing. And let's just figure out together the best way to do it. So it's kind of like, I don't know.
You gotta have
Well,
confidence, you gotta go in
yes.
acting. I feel like I faked it until I made it. Like, I just acted like people would wanna know about the stories I was telling, or I acted
Seriously?
like people cared, and then I think people, like, liked that from me in a way. Like, my husband, I remember one day coming home from, the facility. I think he was on the Colts at that time, and he came home and he was like, "Oh yeah, like I filmed like what type of food is at the football facility." And he's like, I don't think people care about that." And I was like, "I fucking care. I want to know what like
Yes.
you're being served
Yes.
filet at like 9 a.m. Like, yeah, I give a shit about that." So I think it's just hoping people care and then realizing like there's a community for everything. So it's so interesting because it's like confidence and faking it till you make it, and just kind of like going in, telling a story and hoping. I love hearing all the stories from my parents about how I was like when I was younger, some of their favorite memories growing up, and how it differs from the world currently today. And for Mother's Day, finding an extra special gift can be a little difficult. So I want to help you guys out. I'm going to be giving my mom a unique, heartfelt gift that can truly make her feel loved, and it's called Storyworth. So each week, Storyworth emails your loved one a memory provoking question that you will get to help pick. Questions like, did you ever get in trouble at school? Or how did you decide how many children to have? And all your loved one needs to do is respond to that email with a story. Long or short, doesn't matter. They can either write a story or record it over the phone for Storyworth to transcribe. You'll be emailed a copy of your loved one's response as they're submitted over the course of a year, and you'll get to enjoy their retelling of these stories that you already know and be surprised by the stories that you've never heard of before. And then after that year of fun, Storyworth compiles your loved one's stories and photos into a beautiful keepsake hardcover book that you'll be able to share and revisit for generations to come. For me personally, I can't wait to have the Storyworth book for my daughter to read once she's a little bit older, and also just to get a look at all of the photos. Families love Storyworth, and that's why over 40,000 five-star reviews are on Trustpilot, with millions of stories preserved since they were founded over 10 years ago. Give all the moms in your life a unique, heartfelt gift you'll cherish for years. Storyworth. Right now, save $10 on your first purchase when you go to storyworth.com/Sunday. That's storyworth.com/Sunday to save $10 on your first purchase. Me and my husband differentiate in the aspect of how we like to sleep, okay? So insert Chili Pad by Sleep Me. Its mission is to elevate the quality of human life through cool sleep. So whether you're tackling diaper duty, carpool lane, finding your pink again, or reminding your husband how useless he would be without you, Chili Pad has you covered. The Chili Pad bed cooling system was designed with moms and parents in mind. It lets you customize your sleeping environment to your personal temperature, ensuring you fall asleep faster and wake up recovered. Chili Pads work with your existing mattress. It's a temperature regulated water based mattress topper that precisely controls your bed temperature from 55 to 115 degrees. And while you might be thinking 115 degrees, who would do that? Me. Yeah, absolutely me. I like to climb into a warm bed, and the system is buildable and designed for 1 to 2 sleepers. So if your sleep partner, like my husband, like to sleep at a different temperature, or you only need it for one side of the bed, that's okay too. So like for me, I can preheat my side of the bed to a cozy 100 degrees and then let it automatically cool down, so I get the deep, cool sleep I need without even knowing. And that's why professional athletes to power couples swear by Chili Pad. If you guys are interested, visit www.sleep.me/Sunday to get your Chili Pad and save up to $315 with code Sunday. This special offer is available for Sunday Sports Club listeners and only for a limited time. Order it today with free shipping and try it out for 30 days. You can return it for free if you don't like it with their sleep trial. So visit www.sleep.me/Sunday and see why cold sleep is making me a better mom and wife.
So how do you pick like what you're going to do? Does it start as kind of like, and I'm curious because this is sort of how I'm feeling now. It's like now, and maybe it's what you're talking about, like you're now building confidence, but like when you know that something could be interesting to others, do you get a feeling about that? Or how do you do that?
I think it's a feeling. I think
Mhm.
it's now I feel more confident in knowing like what stories people are going to want to hear about, like what they're going to react to. But I feel like early on, I kind of just posted and prayed. I mean,
Yeah.
I at that point I was like, I don't know what people are going to connect with, but I find this interesting. Or I feel like sometimes even my husband being in the space, it makes it very like easy to talk through things like, oh, like I don't think people are going to give a shit. And he's like, no, people are going to give a shit. And then I post a video and it's like, oh, 1 million views. I'm like, oh, people do. Okay. I'm like, my
That's
radar was
crazy.
off. I need to like readjust that. So yeah, it is so interesting just like the confidence piece. And it's interesting hearing even like with the Olympics, working with people who have their own way of doing things, and you just kind of have to like leave that all behind though, because you have to create this new chemistry with this new group of people and like tell stories.
Yeah, and I sort of feel like it's kind of also like, okay, figure out who, like, is there someone that you're sort of reporting to? And because obviously you want to make sure that that person's happy, but otherwise, right, it's just like be a good human, someone that people want to be around and be
Right.
yourself. And then, but figure out, right, like I think asking for feedback too is huge because, that is one environment. And maybe like freelance kind of in general, I think curates more of a, maybe at times it can be like a insecurity about like, am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing? Like when I was doing sidelines for NFL, like that's incredible. It's such an awesome job. It is, in my opinion, one of the hardest because, like, I mean, I'm just going to be honest. One of the areas where I was like, oh, just make me get past this is like, I love the rapport and communicating with players. Like that is why I love the job. It would give me anxiety at certain points, like talking pregame, because that a dude's out there with his headphones on and he is trying to warm up. And it's like, you don't want to, you know what I mean? Like finding that time. And so I found a
Like, hey,
way
I know you're trying to get in the zone, but like, I need to talk to you for a second.
right. And then like, honestly though, but like, okay, so my hat is off to, I think Erin Andrews is the best at it. Like she just, hey,
She just like inserts herself
right.
in like gets her point across, gets her question out there, and gets people to talk to her. I love it.
And even like, not even when she's on camera, but just like when you're getting the back stuff that you need for your in game. Because I finally I was like, okay, so here's what I need to do to mentally make it like up until game time. I'm like, I need these 3 facts. Like this is what I need to know because this is what I want to add to my reports, during the game. And so I would literally like write those things out. So I need to target this guy, this guy, this guy.
Mhm.
And inevitably, so I don't know. It is a funny thing. It's a random thing. And maybe that comes from like having come up more the route of like the traditional, oh, you're a reporter, then you're an anchor / host,
Right.
you're like, and when you're older, sorry, I don't want to cut you off, but when you're getting, good. Like when you get to a role later, then you kind of feel like you're embarrassed to ask. Do you know what I'm saying? Like that's something I've learned too. Like, don't be embarrassed to ask how to do that.
No, don't. I feel like we're in this world, like we're all just trying to figure it out. And that's what I've quickly realized. And also it's kind of a balancing act, like in the reporter and like broadcaster space is a balancing act and trying to like have your hand in a bunch of different things, which goes back to motherhood. And you have 2 children. So talk a little bit about how you balance working and being a mom.
Thank you. They're 11 and 8, and they're super fun. My son's older. My daughter, Sibby, is 8. But it's funny. Like, so my first job, when I had my son, it was 2014, and my first job back, I was at ESPN at the time. My first gig back, 10 weeks after I had him, was the Indy 500. So I remember being like, I was so excited to go, but I was like really like, oh my God, I'm like, I don't want to leave him.
Right.
But that was like such a special thing for me because I realized really fast, and I had a couple friends that I leaned on for like, how did you do it? One of my friends, Jamie Little, is covers that, like she covers racing and is so good at it. And so we talked a lot about like how she did it, what it was like, because those jobs are like, you're in it, and you're gone, but then you're back. And I do think that's something that's really cool about if you're doing sidelines or you're on the road. It's like, if you're lucky enough to have one of those jobs, then you're gone, you're doing it, you're immersed. And sometimes I'm more productive when I'm on the road and immersed in something, because then you don't have all the other pieces of it around you where you're here and you're present. But it also is hard because you're missing them,
Right.
But then I find on the backside of that, when you get home, then you tend to have a couple days more than a weekend where you're home and you're with them and you're in it. So I've realized that about myself, I think, in like recent years, that type of situation is sometimes easier for me to navigate than being like here all the time and you're cobbling together what your schedule looks like during the day. And it's like a lot of Zooms and all that, because structuring. I think structure is really important for me, like professionally. But that's kind of how we've done it. And my husband's got a job where he like goes to sleep with my kids, like at 8:30 at night, right? So because he does the Today Show, so in the morning that's a different beast for us, and it is our normal. We're like he's leaving at the crack of of dawn. So we have a village that rotates in when we need help with that, but it's also I find that like as they're getting older, it's kind of like, I savor the years. Like Scotty's how old?
She's 16 months.
Right. Amazing. So and I like, that's so great. And that I was at
Yep.
ESPN during those ages.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. Do you feel like you've had to choose between like a professional, like something that might advance your career or something that might be exciting in the career world, but you've had to choose that over, oh, like I like just had a baby, or oh, like my kid is having like this event and I should really go to that. Like how do you make those decisions? Because I know like so many working moms listen to this podcast and like might resonate
Yes.
with that.
Funny. I just got this book because I was like, I have to talk to this woman.
Power pause.
Power Pause. Have you heard about this?
No.
Neha Rush. So she was on a Drew Barrymore show, and I heard what she was talking about, and I was like, oh my God, because I feel like I think about that or have thought about that over the course of the last few years so much. Her whole thing is like redefining the power of women that choose to take the pause. And it's like, is there an intentional, smart, powerful way to choose that you are stepping away and then with the intention of coming back? And right. I don't think there's enough of that conversation. Like, I think that when I was making those decisions around the time my kids were born that were like similar in that vein, there was no one to like look up to say like that person took time or intentionally said, hey, I could take 2 years, or I could take this amount of time, or I could sort of think about doing this freelance thing instead of going all in. Because I feel like I was the generation where I was learning from like lean in, go, right. Take your kids, do it. But I think my reality was I've made choices. Like when I left ESPN, it was for a different slew of circumstances, and my experience there was awesome. But it was the right time for me to be able to try something else. And like, I was excited about the opportunity to think about doing event coverage and not doing the daily, everyday type of thing. But then it was like, I did have an opportunity when I was doing sidelines where I was presented the opportunity, hey, you can do a full season of NFL. Would love for you to do that. Or we can split it because we have an opportunity to split yours with someone if you want. And I chose to split it. And that's why I chose, and I love the work. I love that job. Like, and on the weekends that I wasn't doing it, I was excited to be present, but I was missing that like fire too of being around it. But that was one time where I did make the conscious decision, because it's like, okay, well, you can do this. And I know a lot of people would look at that and think that that's crazy, because I know that's a job that people would pay for. But also for me at that time, I was like, I felt like really lucky to have an option to have a level of presence, that felt like a little bit of balance for me too. When I talk about being panicked about the freelance thing, it's like when stuff like that then goes away or changes, then I have been in circumstances where I'm like, okay, like now I've got a large swath of time off, and so me figuring out that piece of it too, of like, okay, well, what do you really want to be striving for? What do you want to be doing? Or it's okay to not be doing, it's a mind warp. It's like it really is. But I think,
I think it's more of a mind game than people realize, is like the balance between motherhood and like wanting to be there with your kids all the time through everything, but also having this drive of like, I want to chase after my career. Like I have dreams and goals that like I still want to accomplish.
Yeah. And also like making yourself whole,
Yep.
like, so
I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot about that part.
No,
I'm like,
but
I'm
you're
still
right,
in the first 2 years, so I don't even know about that part.
I know, you're so right. You're so right. And I'm still there. When you're in it full time on either side, it's tricky. And to your point about asking about like events and not missing stuff, that's really hard, and my husband and I talk about that a lot, because there's definitely stuff that we can't be at.
Right. But I
Yes.
remember like even the other week when I flew out to the Masters, I was so excited to go to an event. I was taking my dad. There was so much excitement
So
around it that I
cool.
was so excited to board the plane. But at the same time, while I was boarding the plane, I was like, man, I'm really excited to get back home. And so it's like the excitement is like in front of you, but it's behind you. And Ellen Pompeo was on the Call Her Daddy podcast, and she said that when you go to work as a mom, you can't give 100%. I'm sure that's true for parents in general, but you can't, it's not 100%. You're not always 100% there because like you are a parent at this point. But it's interesting that you and your husband work in like these similar spaces but have very different hours. So like when you're home, but he has a more like, okay, like this is happening every single day. So where do you guys like, where is the balance between you stepping in, like you, I feel like
Yeah.
your week to week is so different. Do you guys have like Sunday meetings where you're like, okay, this is what my week looks like. This is what, like, I want to see your
Yeah.
family calendar.
That's so funny. So, well, we don't have one, and that's part of the problem. No, I'm kidding. But we do. He's really great about sending on like Thursday or Friday. He'll send his week ahead,
Mm-hmm.
and he'll give me a debrief of like what his schedule looks like. And it's crazy because what people might not realize about like that job is they do the Today Show, but then after that, there is so much more work in a day. Like it's stacked
Right.
with interviews, with all like just prep meetings, whatever it is. And so it's like sort of an overview of that. And so I have tried now to also give him sort of an overview of like my stuff, but also what the kids have. So it really like, I don't know, like right before I hopped on here, I had to go in and I sometimes will forget to put in my children's like dismissal manager where what are you picking them up on the car or are they walking? And if you forget that, then your child's just not like coming home on a bus. They're floundering. So it's like that kind of stuff. Or, as you're talking about Ellen sharing, it's like you're on the plane, but you're like organizing the play date because
Mm-hmm.
like, and there are things that when you have people that can jump in, whether it's a family member or if it's a sitter or a nanny, of course they can help lighten that load. But it's like I do find that a lot of that stuff is kind of falls on, the mom because you're sort of the nerve center of where
Right.
those things connect. But I do think learning how to delegate a little bit with that, with either the helper or Melvin. But Melvin also is like, like he's like, there are times that I'll be like, and he's like, I'm on air, I can't talk. So I think the way we balance is like just kind of making sure that each other is in the loop. But I
Right.
think he's really good about being, for sure, like being at the things when he can make it, for sure. Like he
Mm-hmm.
coaches my son's basketball team. He goes to the games. But there's certain stuff that like you just have to pick up the pieces, and we definitely need to be more organized with stuff. Like we've tried the calendar. I also think that that's
No,
tricky.
I'm type B to my core. If you looked at my phone, you would see a calendar, but how much I've input that versus like my team input that, it's
Yes.
100% and 0%. And if you were to look at my closet, it would be a type B closet. And if you look in
No,
my
I don't
kitchen,
believe that. Are you serious?
oh, I have like 50 videos that have gone like up and into the cloud because I just forget to edit them, or I don't even know how that happens. No, I am very, very, very type B. And I always think that people who are very busy have to be type A because that's how they get successful. But then I hear that you don't have a calendar and I'm like, okay. Okay.
I have a hard copy calendar and we have a grease board calendar for the kids, but it still says March. And so I'm gonna go change that when we're done with this.
Right.
And then in the phone, right, it's just like a series of texting back. But like a typical conversation with my husband and I will be like, hey, I have that thing in August, or don't forget my dad's birthday. And he's like,
Right.
well, it's not on my calendar. And so I have realized, like, thank God, like he's got this great team and an assistant around him who's amazing. But yeah, I think that people who are, maybe like creative also, like the type B, like idea type centric. You know, like when you say that you do a lot of your stuff based on a feeling, I kind of think that's how I feel like I have also started to do a lot of things. And I think that's the blessing of the way stuff's evolving now too, because you can go with instinct. And I think a lot
Totally.
of times instinct is like a real gift, and that's what you're doing. And that's
Mm-hmm.
what I'm finding is like, wait a minute, people haven't always had this type of access. And maybe this is something like, but it's almost like, could it be? Like, could it
Right.
really be this awesome? Um, but yeah, so I don't know. I also like, I try to work with an organizer to help myself like purge stuff, because that's
Mm-hmm.
also not one of my strengths. But I feel like, um, doing that, like trying to sort of reset and getting
Yes.
yourself in a functional
That's where
space.
I feel like the village that everybody talks about has to also include people for just like your own help, right? Like we just hired a new assistant and I was like, I have no idea how to onboard you because there are 50 million things happening right now. And I'm like, you should just like come over. But like also I work until like 12 a.m., like sitting in my bed. So like maybe you should just like sleep over and then like I don't even know how to get somebody integrated. But I'm like, you're part of my village and like I need to get this organizer. That will be part of my village. There's just so
Yes.
much that goes into life in general. Like, can I even just say that? Like, life is just busy and hectic and working and motherhood and this and oh your kid has a soccer game, like oh yeah, but I have to believe that it gets a little bit easy, not even easier, but the difficulties become different as your kids get older.
Yes.
Like
I
you
think
can text your children.
they don't have phones. I
You can
can't.
call you.
And
They can call you.
they, but see that, so that's a whole other can of worms, because that is
You're like
also,
parenting in this generation or this world.
yeah,
I
I am very curious too, like how you do everything that you do. And I know you talk about this a lot, but like how you really balance it with the pooling of like wanting to be there,
Mhm.
like, do you find that, how do you structure time? Do you structure time for that? Or do you kind of bounce around like whatever the activities are?
It's it's so it's interesting because my husband and I both currently work from home. Like we don't have like a typical job that one of us has to go to. So if I'm, for example, going to the masters, we have like we have two great babysitters that we work with all the time and they go above and beyond. So like even if we don't need help watching our daughter, they're like, "Oh, like I'll throw in like dishes to the dishwasher." Which that
Yes.
I'm like, I want to be spending time with my daughter. I don't want to be loading my dishwasher, you know?
Yes.
So, but when
Yes.
when I have events to go to, I if my husband is home, well, we've never left her overnight to this point. So
Okay.
it's very much a balancing act of like, okay, if we're both invited to an event, okay, now we have to get help out there. Okay, is my mom going to go out there? Is my sister going to go out there? Are we going to have a babysitter out there? Like, what does that look like? Is that a safe environment to have her in? We were both thinking about going to the Masters initially, and I was like, I don't know what there's to do in Augusta, Georgia. Like, Isaac, stay behind. Like, you have the
Yes.
daughter. When he's at home, I feel 100% like in the moment wherever else I'm at because he is such a 50-50 parent. But when a babysitter is here, I'm still like, okay, but is she okay? Does she have this? Like, does she have that?
Yes.
Not like they don't have her best interest in mind, but it's just like a parent. I'm like, we know her to her core. Like, we know this, we know that. So it is a very interesting, like, predicament to be in, especially as she's a toddler. She knows when mommy is not there. She knows when daddy is not there. So it's like I'm leaving my heart behind a little bit. But
Oh, that's a good way to describe it. Yeah.
yeah, it's hard because I feel like I'm in a space of I can't say no to things because I
Hmm.
don't wanna get left behind, I don't wanna feel forgotten, and I'm also, like, trying to prove to people that, like, your life doesn't end when you have a kid, like, all these people are like, "Oh, like, get sleep now because you're not gonna get sleep." It's like, "Oh, no, I'm not gonna get good sleep, and I'm still gonna be doing what I used to be doing. So, like, let me prove you wrong."
I think also you can be like you can help by being like the best version of yourself by when you have things like that and being away, storing up on sleep. Like I've found that
Oh,
like
yeah.
when you're using the work to also help you restore is a real thing. And I've really started to think about that. I'm like, sometimes it's much better sleep. It's like I don't know, you can just, I think that there's something to it. I think the other thing that what I think about is when I was at ESPN and my son was probably like 2 or 3, they decided to take SportsCenter on the road, and they did my show on the road, and it was like the best thing ever. I mean, I was like, I would actually pay them to do this job. This was so fun because it was, and especially during the NBA finals. So we were hopping back and forth that during that first season of Cleveland and Golden State. And so I remember though, they were like, if you want, we can make it so that you could bring your son. And so they were so awesome. And I've actually, a lot of the networks that I've worked at have like offered the same thing. Like they will, if you ask. So I was able to take my son to Cleveland. And I remember stuff started getting a little tricky when there was like a span where they needed me to go to Cleveland, and then I had to go right to California and then come back quickly. So it was like your decision. I would be like, you know what, it's going to be better for me and for them if I'm able to do this solo. But I brought our sitter and him, and it was awesome. And I remember my daughter was 3 months old, and we did the Special Olympics at ESPN, and it was in Austria. And yeah, and I was like, ooh, I can't, like, and it was 3 weeks, and I just was like, I could not leave my heart over on another continent for 3 weeks. I was like, this would be crazy. And so,
well, and at that age, 3 weeks is like years.
3 months. Oh yeah, 3 weeks away. Yeah, yes. Exactly. Right. It felt like it. I was like, oh, and so I took them and I cobbled it together, and my mom went with me. And I remember when we landed and got there, and that travel to get there was like, it was totally fine, but it was like grueling. And I remember being like, what have I done? Was this such, like just nervous, but it ended up being so wonderful and like easy, and we managed it. And my husband like came by for a stint. He came over for a couple of days, but what the coolest thing is, the hotel we stayed at when we were leaving, they gave my son this little, like, what was it? A falcon stuffed animal. And we were just down with my parents, and my son he's 11. He'd kill me for saying this, but he travels with a couple stuffed animals, and he brought that falcon, and it's one of his favorite stuffies. And I'm like, every time I see that, I am just reminded, like, that is freaking awesome. It is a memory for him. And I just think it's so cool. And I want every, like, other women out there who are working, whether it's full-time or part-time, like, that's a real gift to be able to like expose them,
Totally. It is really interesting because on social media, there's like some horror stories of companies like and how they treat postpartum women, pregnant moms, this and that. I have been so blessed to work with the companies that I do. For example, I'm heading to Stagecoach, and the company I'm heading there with is allowing me and my husband to bring our daughter along and like make like accommodations for us to bring a sitter to this house. And it's so nice working with companies who like the world is like, oh, like you should do this, you should do that. But then the world doesn't accommodate those things. And so when it's so interesting hearing even in your position, like a company willing to accommodate that, or, oh yeah, don't worry, like here's this, here's that, and help, it allows you to, it makes you more excited to do those things.
Yeah. And I think it's like advocating for that stuff too, once you realize what can be done and what's out there, but and really like speaking up or putting a name to what it is. That's why I'm kind of like on this kick now of like, okay, just like leaning into whatever your reality is.
I feel like even your excitement around the Kentucky Derby has me so excited. I'm literally gonna get off this call and go and text like a million people about what outfit and whatever and this and that. But before we finish, I always like end the episode with a little rapid fire Q&A. So I have like a combination of broadcasting, motherhood, Kentucky Derby.
Okay, very good.
Vintage jerseys or modern jerseys?
Modern jerseys.
Wow, you are the first person to answer that.
And this is just for me in life, right? And like liking, I just went with my first thing. I love vintage, but I love, like, I've also just been paying attention to a lot of baseball lately, and I love some of the new, like, I don't know, like modern looking colors. So that's why that popped in my mind.
Okay, love that. NASCAR or F1?
This is so hard. I have to say NASCAR because that's where I came from. But I know and totally get the allure of F1. I'm here for it. I respect it. But I'm going to say NASCAR because that's where I got my start in sports.
Photo finish or dominant victory?
Oh my God. Photo finish.
Same. Attending live games or watching from home?
So hard because I am one of those people that, like, if I'm really invested in the storylines of the Super Bowl, I would actually rather just watch it in my bedroom with my remote control by myself. You know what I mean?
I
know
miss
that's
the
so
commercials
boring.
every year. I get so sad. I'm like, I have to rewatch the entire Super Bowl just for the commercials.
Well, because it's hard. It's like, or, it's hard for me to sometimes to be in a place where there's like a lot of opportunity to be socializing because depending on the stakes. For me, the stakes really determine it. So I think I would say, I'm going to say be there live though, because ultimately it's really great.
Yeah, the energy, all of that. Sideline reporting or in studio?
Oh, Jesus.
You're not really liking this rapid fire Q&A.
No, I do, but this is like really hard because for me, it truly is like a perfect combo. I mean, man, I would say, oh, God, this is so hard. It's like, I think I would say sideline reporting at this moment.
Love that.
But I love them both. I love them both.
Coaching your kids' team or cheering from the sideline?
Coaching my kids' team. Even though it's, I coached my daughter's basketball team and it was panic every single week for sure. Like I felt like I was going to vomit before I went to practice and she's in second
like,
grade.
You're more nervous than her.
I was, but there was something like really satisfying of few but really important moments where you see it clicking for them and then you see them feeling good about themselves. That's everything. And I had an Olympian I was interviewing once saying, if you ever get the opportunity, even if you didn't play basketball, coach your daughter's team. And I was like, okay, I'll try it. And I think that's what she meant.
Oh, I love that. Betting based on odds or horses' names?
Horses' names.
Derby style, wide brimmed hat or fascinators?
Fascinators.
Love that.
Fascinators.
And that's
really
it. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Where can people find you?
Oh, this is so fun. The best place is follow me on my Instagram at Lindsay CZ. So I shortened mine just to the first two initials. So it's LINDSAYCZ.
A lot less complicated.
Yeah. Yes. I could have just Gunzar, but
I went with the 4. I
love it.
Although everyone's like, is it Kuch? Is it Kuch? I'm like, whatever you want to make it because it's not my last name.
I love it.
Thank you so much for coming on. Looking forward to Kentucky Derby.
Yes, I hope to see you there for sure. And I cannot wait to hear what you think. And I'm sending you contacts when we hang up. So.
Awesome.